and welcome back to NetKno, the networking show. And this episode is very practical. We're getting hands-on-y, okay? I'm getting my hands on you. Getting hands-on-y. We got weird again already. So this episode, it's all about how to get out of conversations. We're talking about escaping, right? So we've all been there. We go to a networking event. We have a conversation. It's a lovely conversation. We get chatting. And then that conversation, it comes to a natural end. But how do we then leave? And we end up just standing next to the same person for like 20 minutes and we've got nothing else to say to each other. And it gets really weird and awkward. So again, practical tips on how to navigate these awkward moments. It also happens where sometimes, you get a clinger. Someone just like clings onto you and they stick with you. If that does happen, then we've got to try and empathize with them. I talk a lot on different episodes about empathy, but try and empathize, because if someone is clinging onto you, it's because you make them feel safe. So we've got to try and take it as a compliment. Maybe it doesn't feel like that in the moment, but it is. But if a conversation, it comes to a natural end, you've said everything you've got to say to each other. The first option that we can take, because remember, we are in a networking event, we're in a networking environment, everyone there has signed up to be networked with. The aim of the game is to talk to different people. As lovely as you are, they probably want to go and speak to someone as someone else as well. So the first thing that we can do is simply say to them, right, it was lovely to meet you. I'm going to go and have a little mingle and speak to some other people. I hope you enjoy the rest of the event. And off you trot. That simple. You are allowed to do this. This is acceptable. It's within the etiquette rule book. It's totally fine to do it. Off you trot. It doesn't sound that easy, but in theory, it's dead easy, but in reality, actually, it's quite difficult to do. We can feel like we're being a bit rude or it's a bit uncomfortable. It kind of goes against the grain. So if that doesn't work for you, that's okay. Next option. Another option is to look around the room, see if there's anyone stood on their own, and then welcome them in. Wave them over, say, oh, come and chat to us, don't stand on your own. Hi, nice to meet you. Oh, what do you do? Like, oh, we've just been chatting about this, or what do you think of this? Bring them into the conversation, and then that way, it takes the pressure off you. You can let the new person and the other person spark up a chat, and once they're chatting, they can say, excuse me, and then just bow out. Off you go. They're fine. The reason, again, often people cling on and they don't want to leave the conversation is because they're scared of being stood on their own. So I've talked about this in a previous episode when it comes to like reading body language and stuff. I'll pop the link in, make sure, click through if you've not seen it already, go and have a little look. But people are often scared of being stood on their own. So when a conversation comes to an end, rather leaving and then going to find someone else, they'll just stand with you because they don't want to be on their own. So you're taking that moment away from them, like by welcoming someone else in, they don't have to worry about being stood on their own. So you're doing them a favor. You're also doing a favor to the person who was stood on their own by bringing them into the conversation. So you're helping facilitate that connection. Lovely. And then if they go on to like become best friends or get married or something, then they've got you to thank for it. So you're just, changing lives. Another option, even better than just like welcoming people in, is to actually facilitate introductions between people. So you meet someone new. This is Steve. Hi, Steve. Nice to meet you. What do you do? Well, Steve does X, Y, and Z. And then one of the questions that you're going to ask is obviously, who's a good connection for you? Who are you looking to meet? And Steve says, well, actually, at the minute, we're doing a lot with people that work in HR. I'm like, oh, lovely. And then your brain starts ticking, thinking, right, who do I know that works in HR? Who's in this room that works in HR? And you know that Susie over there, Susie works in HR. Anyway, back to Steve. We're listening to Steve. We're chatting to Steve. He's a great guy. Conversation comes to a natural end. And rather than just awkwardly then standing next to each other, what you're going to do is you're going to say, Steve, before you said, you work with people in HR. Well, do you know Susie over there? And he'll go, no, I don't know. So I'm like, oh, come with me, I'll introduce you. And then I literally get people and like drag them across networking events in a nice way. Take them over. Susie, she's maybe in a conversation already, so you just give her a little wave so she knows that you're waiting. And then while you're waiting, you'll tell Steve all about Susie, where you met her, the kind of work she does, anything that you can remember that would be applicable. Tell him all about it. If you don't remember anything, just say, do you know what? I've met Susie a few times. She'll explain much better than I can about what she does, but we've met her at a few events. Blah, blah, blah. And when Susie finishes her conversation, again, instead of awkwardly just standing next to the person waiting to be saved, she'll end it, she'll come over, I'll be like, oh, Susie, how are you? how's things? Nice to see you. I was just chatting to Steve. This is Steve. Nice to meet you. And then make that introduction. And then tell Susie a little bit about Steve. So this is where, again, it's so important to make sure that we're listening when people are talking. So when Steve was talking to us, we want to make sure we're really listening so that we can then reconvey that information to Susie. It makes us look fantastic. Steve thinks that you are an absolute legend because you just listened to what he was saying. You've also just added massive value to him by introducing him to Susie, who he might not have met, sliding doors and all that. So you've just added value to him by making that introduction to make sure that they've met. You've added value to Susie because Susie, well, she knows that you even remember her and kind of what she does, which is awesome. Again, you've introduced her to someone new that she might not have met otherwise. You've taken that fear away from them of being like left stood on their own when the conversations that they were in ended. You put them together and you say, right, I'll let you two chat. And off you go. You're out. That's the absolute ultimate. That is the best escape possible, like absolute dream. If you have done that or ever do that in the future, I want you to email me immediately and I shall send you a prize. I will not be sending you a prize other than my respect to you and congratulations, because that's an absolute class move. This also, what it does is other people in the room are potentially going to see you do that and they're going to want a piece of it. So that's going to increase your social capital. Again, another episode that we have done. If you've not seen it, not heard it, go and have a little look, have a little listen. But that makes you more attractive to others. I want people to do that for me at networking events. So it makes you more approachable. So you've escaped from a conversation, you've exited, you've added value to two people, and you've just raised your value in that room. More people want to come and talk to you. Like, oh, like, who else do you know that you could add value to? You know, could you introduce me to anyone? Being the center of the network and networking, connecting people like that is such a powerful place to be. I want to connect with people that introduce me to people that I want to meet. So doing that, absolutely fantastic way. It gets you out of the conversation while adding value and increasing your value as well, which is awesome. If you can't do any of those things, there are couple of final options. Next option, excuse yourself to go and get another drink. So I've got a friend who, this is a pretty extreme version, but he carries around an empty coffee cup at any networking event he attends. So he always has an excuse to leave. He's always got an out. The problem with going, it was nice to meet you, I'm going to go get another cuppa, enjoy the event. Sometimes people will go, I'll come with you and get a cuppa, and you're like, oh, for fuck's sake. And then they just walk with you. It happens, but again, being near the coffee, the station, the food, whatever, the bar, you're probably going to spark up a conversation with someone else, and so are they. And again, them doing that is probably in response to that fear of not wanting to be stood on their own, so try and look after them. The final option, the last option that I would take, and I would use this maybe 2 times per event tops, excuse yourself to go to the toilet. However, if you are going to go, if you say to someone, it was really nice to meet you, I'm just going to pop to the ladies, you've got to then go to the ladies, because if you turn around and start talking to someone new, it makes you look like a liar and it makes you look like a bit of a douche, and you've just ruined all the good stuff that you've done. So again, I would only use that once, twice tops per event, because if you're going to the toilet every 10 minutes, people are going to start to talk, okay? They're going to worry about you. The final thing I'd say, in regards to like trying to get out of a conversation, because sometimes we do connect and we meet people and they just don't pick up on the social cues that the conversation is over. If you try the social cues and they just don't stop, it is okay to say like, right, it was lovely to meet, and just like end the conversation and be a bit more blunt with it. That's allowed as well. Again, you're at a networking event, you're in a networking environment. It's okay to want to go and speak to other people. But if you are with someone, if you meet someone at an event and they've maybe told you they're quite new to networking, for example, or they're visibly like really nervous about it, just look after them. Just give them an hour, and say to them, the conversation's come to an end between us, and, maybe don't say that, but just, it's come to an end. And you say, tell you what, should we go and mingle together? Do you want to come? Should we go network together? Should we do a little lap of the party? Like in Clueless, you do a little lap of the party, see what's going on. Take them with you, start welcoming other people in to the conversation, and just try and look after them a bit, because again, we need to really be kind to each other in these spaces, in these environments. So sometimes it's okay to rip the plaster off and just be like, right, I'm gonna get mingling, get going, chat to some other people. I hope you have a great event. But then other times it's just reading the situation. Other times it's much better to just stick with them and just look after them and just be kind to them, because they're going to remember you forever for doing that for them. And you never know, in one day, you know, fast forward 5 years from now, and that person could be your dream client. And if you can just invest a little bit of time and kindness into them now, it's going to just pay off dividends in the future. So, and it's just the right thing to do. So there you go. So there are some top tips on how to escape as and when we need to from those awkward moments when the conversation's died. I hope that they are useful. Go out and try them, give them a go, see what works for you, see what feels a bit more comfortable, and try and add value at the same time to people if you can, because that's the dream. And just try and have fun with it, and remember that you are there to network, so is everyone else, so you are allowed to network. So that's it for this episode. Make sure that you have subscribed. Go and click on that bell button right now. Please do it. Off you go. Press the bell. I shall wait. Wonderful. And I'll see you over at the next episode.
A Liquid Studios production.